Hi, everybody. My name's Mohsin, and we're together here with Jordan Groskamp from TU Delft. And TU Delft, if you don't know, has been doing a jacquard weaving denim project for 3 years now, together with Diamond Denim and myself. And each year, as Jordan said, it's getting bigger and bigger. The last few times they've done this project, they've done jackets, but this time Jordan had the task of doing a 5-pocket jean. So he's going to explain he's going to explain quite a detailed presentation about what he's done. And the reason for this call really is really to explain to the industry what TU Delft and Jordan has done, but also to get feedback. That's the main thing. There's no point doing projects like this if they don't get incorporated, or no one else takes up the baton to try it themselves. So this is a student project, but there's no reason why it couldn't be done in a level where a Levi's or someone like that would actually pick it up. So I'm going to let Jordan speak now, and I think we're going to have lots of questions at the end of the presentation. So Jordan, take it away.
Take it away. All right. All right. I see that there's still a few people coming in, so we'll slowly start with the presentation, and still I have to manually admit some people in the meantime. But as Mohsin said, industry collaboration, I feel, is very important for us if we all want to move towards a better future. This project has spent a lot of time into trying to figure out if there is a way that 3D weaving could give us some, tools to tackle these challenges that we're facing. And this presentation is really focused on sharing the insights that we gained through this project. So I've tried to put as much value in this presentation as possible. I hope that you will like it. And if not, there's also an opportunity for you to let me know that. At the end of the presentation, we're doing an open discussion with myself, Mohsin, and the other people involved in this project. If you have any questions that pop up, feel free to interrupt or save them for the end of the Q&A. Let's see. We're 5 minutes past 1. I think this is an okay moment for us to start. Mohsin, if I forget to admit something in the meantime, please feel free to let me know.
Say anything. Yeah, sure. No worries. I think you're doing a great job. So I think let's go.
All right. So this project is a collaboration between myself, Diamond Denim as a production partner, ENDRIME for consult, and TU Delft is the university where I'm working on, and where both of my supervisors, Milou Voorwinden and McQuillan, also work. And this presentation is about design for sustainability, and in particular 3D woven denim jeans. So I welcome you all to this industry tech talk. And again, you're invited to come chat with us during or after the presentation. And without further ado, let's dive into the contents. I'll quickly talk to you about the problems and opportunities faced in the industry, give you a quick introduction of 3D weaving, as well as the benefits for the denim industry in particular. Finally, I'll tell a little bit about the execution that was done in this project, and we'll close off with a Q&A, and let's dive right into it. One of the problems that the industry is facing right now is overproduction, with about 30% of garments going unsold, and in some cases, half of these garments not even reaching the full retail price. Of course, also resulting into very environmentally harmful means of production. Sorry, if I look like I'm a little bit distracted in the meantime, it's just because I'm admitting some people, so don't worry about it. Let's see. Oh, admit all. Another problem that the industry is facing is underutilization of garments, meaning that people buy more garments while wearing them less, resulting into lower quality garments, and 85% of these garments eventually either go to landfill or are incinerated. Now, this leads to unsustainable business models, in a sense that the business models of nowadays have a high carbon emission, very complex international supply chains, and to add on top of the problem, the high rate of online returns that fast fashion is facing nowadays is also not necessarily beneficial for everybody. And that takes me to a big section of the challenge. This big section of the challenge is denim jeans. Why? because it's one of the most iconic garments. I think that almost everybody has one of these. And besides that, last year there were 4.5 billion sold, and the amount of sales is only projected to grow over the coming time. Now, one of these, let's say, standard jeans has an environmental impact. The environmental impact of a standard jean has an embodied energy of 33.4 kilos, which is about the weight of an average large dog. Besides this, a lot of water consumption takes place. This is 3,781 liters, which is about the volume of this swimming pool, as you can see here. I see that still quite some people are joining the meeting at this point. You're more than welcome. If you missed some of the slides that were shared earlier, please say so now or at the end of the presentation, and I will explain what you might have missed in the meantime. And now let's get back to the environmental impact of standard jeans, because besides embodied energy and water consumption, there is also a lot of land usage, with 12 square meters a year, which is about what you need to grow 48 kilos of carrots. Now, while jeans have been around for quite a while, more than 150 years, a lot of optimization has taken place. But some of the cost optimization has resulted into the incorporation of polyester-based materials, which results into a compromised end of life. And as an example of this, I would like to share this image that was shared to me by Mohsin as an indication that polyester just has no place in jeans, because there's no way that we can do something useful with it once it lands in the trash. Now, now that we have an understanding of what the problem is that the current industry is facing, I would like to introduce you to 3D weaving. So for everybody who just joined, you're perfectly on time. Now the good stuff is about to start. So what is 3D weaving? 3D weaving is a new production technique that allows us to combine denim design and production. And the result of this is relatively durable multi-layer fabrics. As you can see here, one of the pant legs that was created during this project. Now, of course, what are some of the benefits that you could imagine with this? Less sewing and cutting. Now, how does 3D weaving work exactly? It works by taking an industrial jacquard loom and applying a process that combines yarn, fabric, garment, and pattern design into a file that we call an MOB. It stands for Map of Bindings, and it looks a little bit like this. It's created through Clo3D, a digital garment design software, and eventually optimized through Adobe Illustrator, and then thrown into NetGraphics, which is the program that we have used during this project to program the jacquard loom. Once you have obtained this MOB, you will program it into the jacquard loom, and the result is one of these multi-layer fabrics that embraces sustainable and zero-waste practices. And you might ask, why is this relevant? Well, it is relevant because it offers us a new and fundamental tool to tackle some of the environmental challenges that we're facing. Besides this, this project shows that it can already be done with standard machinery. Oh, sorry, there's a lot of people joining in.
It's going to be very popular. So of course people are going to be joining now.
Well, everybody is more than welcome. Again, for everybody who's just joining, thank you very much for your time. If you missed anything, just pop a question right now or after the presentation, and I will share it with you. Beautiful doodles, Nadim. I'll just continue as we go. And besides the fact that 3D weaving offers a sustainable design method and it can already be produced with standard machinery, there is also the opportunity for further improvement of on-demand systems through automation of manufacturing. This eventually would allow us to close the loop of the circular fashion economy, and something that a lot of people in the industry seem to be moving towards slowly but steadily. I would like to take you through the benefits of 3D weaving by showing the design version 4 that was created in this project. Now, this is not,
One second. Who sort of whoever's drawn on the screen, can they sort of like remove it? I think it was like Nadeem or someone. I don't
yeah,
want this.
maybe I can do it. Oh yeah,
There
yeah,
you go.
there I
Boom,
can,
done.
there I can.
Perfect.
It's not that I don't like your doodles, but maybe we can save them for later in the presentation.
I think so.
All right, perfect. So design version 4 that was developed during this project. This is not the final design. I will talk about that a little bit later, but it will give you a good indication of what's currently possible. Now, one of the main benefits for 3D weaving, of course, is production efficiency, resulting into less labor-intensive production steps than conventional denim jeans. And one of the examples that we can give for you is this fifth pocket, which is usually very traditional for denim jeans, but as you can see, here we utilize the benefits of 3D weaving in order to make the whole production process well, more efficient. Besides this, 3D weaving allows us to reach quite comparable styles to conventional denim jeans, as can be seen through this multi-layer fly right here. Besides this, the design that you're seeing right now also utilizes low impact trims. So no metal rivets, we use bar tacks instead, and we use removable buttons which can be removed by the consumer before discarding the garment. And here's a little zoomed in picture of one of these bar tacks. Now, theoretically, the result of this design is, sorry, and we're going one step ahead, but the result is a pair of jeans that is 100% recyclable when the removable buttons are removed. It uses 25% less water. This particular design has 0% production waste. Now, because we didn't use any polyester-based materials, this jean also has 0% microplastics, and we've decided to go with a 30% hemp blend because of the potential that hemp offers us for the industry. If you have more questions about this, feel free to ask me later. And then the average weight of one of these layers that you can find in the jean legs is 12 ounces. So rather comparable to normal denim jeans. And if I may personally say so, it also feels rather normal denim. Some of the additional details that this design has is a back cinch that allows us to somewhat adapt the size if you gain or lose a few pounds. We have the traditional back pockets, but in this case with a 3D woven seam over the middle, resulting into a somewhat subtle yet noticeable design choice. All right, for the people that are just joining, if you have any questions or you missed anything, feel free to ask questions later on. And now this jean doesn't only look okay, it also fits quite okay. We went for a relatively standard fit, just for the sake of this project, but during this project we realized that most fits can be achieved. We focused a lot of effort on following the curves of the human body, but still enabling zero waste design without stretchy materials. And this allows us to create multiple sizes as well. We've created these multiple sizes through a digital process that's done in Clo, where we analyze the body measurements and we adapt the fabric in such a way that there is no excessive strain in any spots. This allows us to not only create a 34 size male, but for example, also a somewhat smaller, tight-fitting size for females without the use of stretchy materials. And now, these are a lot of benefits for 3D weaving, but wait up, there's more. Because 3D weaving also offers some interesting opportunities that are usually reserved for Jacquard weaving only. But since Jacquard is the main driver for allowing us to create multi-layer fabrics, all the free complexity that Jacquard offers, well, it can be utilized for the design here. One of these innovative design opportunities is changing the orientation of the weave structure wherever you are, resulting into quite intricate patterns as you can see here. Besides this, you can also alternate between completely different weave structures, giving you quite intricate and unique combinations of fabrics. And finally, you can also alternate the top and bottom of the fabric, which you want to use, and create a graphic result as can be seen here. Now, this graphic, for example, is relatively easy to do. And now we're choosing a very normal graphic, but you could also use this to, for example, create wash patterns or whisker patterns without necessarily having to go through the garment finishing process. You take an image, you put it in a 2-color bitmap, you make sure that these colors are the same colors that are used in the map of bindings, and the result is press print or press weave, and you will find something like this. This is one of the first iterations of us making graphics. If you are by any chance at the upcoming Kingpins edition in Amsterdam, you will have an opportunity to find the final design that we've made with this. It will be shown at the key pieces stand, and you're more than welcome to just interact with it or ask questions there. Now, the execution of this project visually looks something like this. But at the beginning, we start with research and getting the idea. And at the end, we have a fairly detailed design. Now, this is a somewhat linear 6-step process that I will take you through right now. First, starting with research and development. Now, truth must be told, I am not necessarily a denim designer by trade. I'm a student of industrial design here at the Technical University of Delft. And some time for me was spent also getting to know the industry. What are we dealing with? What are the problems that occur? How do normal patterns look like? What for some of you may be very, well, information that you've had for a long time. This I had to acquire as well. And during this process, we also developed a various amount of sample blankets, which were used for us to define the most optimal multi-layer fabric that we could use. I will not go through all the specifics, but if you have an interest in doing this for yourself, you can take a screenshot here or send me a message for the final report, which will be published next month. Now, after we have identified which fabrics are great to work with, we can go ahead and move to digital iteration. As I shared earlier, our digital iteration was done using Clo 3D almost exclusively as a design software that allowed us to not only create patterns and change it for different sizes, but also test the fabrics itself for stress strain. Oh, all right. Well, so on essentially. Once we have gathered a design, we're moving towards physical prototypes. We're doing this to not only check if the dimensions add up, but we also do this to, well, ensure that it can be assembled, because assembly for 3D weaving is a little bit different than conventional denim jeans. What you can see here on the left side is a prototype that looks very wide. The reason for this being is that once we move to the next step, the creation of the map of bindings, you also have to account for the fact that some shrinkage might occur in the fabrics. We've calculated the shrinkage, and it was 16.7% over the weft, and it was 3.75% over the warp, which is the reason why the first prototype looked quite wide. But once we actually manufactured it and the shrinking added up, the fit was quite okay. Once you have this MOB, which was again created through Clo 3D and then optimizing the pattern in Illustrator to finally program it in Net Graphics, we shared this design with our manufacturing partner, Diamond Denim, who has been so helpful during this project and allowed us to parallel prototype multiple variations of the design. Because this project only lasted for about 6 months, I was not able to wait for every new design to come in. So it was always a shotgun approach and then iterating further on the best design. Now, fabric production went relatively smoothly. There were some problems that occurred during this process, but none of these problems were absolute deal breakers. And if you want to learn more about the problems that you might face during this project, again, I would like you to have a look at the report, which will be coming out next month. Now, in the last step of the garment production process, we're moving towards garment assembly, where all of the design and assembly steps of the garment have been documented in a tech pack. And this allowed us to, well, essentially say, where do we need all the dimensions? What are the sewing, the stitches? Which order do we need to assemble it? And if you were to tailor it to a specific person, there are some details in the design that would allow you to tailor it without physically altering the pattern beforehand. This process essentially allowed us to move from one of the earlier designs that you can see here on the left towards a more finalized production design that does not have the fraying lines and well, is integrated rather nicely. Now, the next topic dives a little bit more into some of the key concepts that you might need if you wanted to move towards 3D weaving. For some of you, this might not be relevant, but for most of you, I feel like it would be interesting to know. So one of the main pillars that were used during this process was zero waste pattern design. Because we're working with multi-layer fabrics, zero waste pattern design gets a few new horizons to work with, essentially giving you more opportunities to actually make a zero waste design without making detrimental design decisions. Besides this, it's interesting for you to know that during our project, we were able to create up to 4 layers. But what is good to know is that even though we can make 4 layers, it's always a fractional layer density that's taking place. So it's always if you have 4 layers, it's always the same weight as if it was combined into 1 layer. Now, in the future, you might be able to make more layers or thicker layers, but during this project, we used standard machinery, so a relatively standard jacquard loom. And if you wanted to increase the density, then you might find yourself wanting to make a few alterations to the machine. Then finally, the map of bindings is the one file that combines well, both the pattern and the layers. So each of these colors represents a different type of binding. For example, orange here is the binding from which you could have taken the screenshot earlier in this presentation. Every color represents a different binding. And then finally, once you have the fabric, shrinkage manipulation is a topic that wasn't touched upon in this project too much, but different types of weave structures result into different types of shrinkage. And this could eventually be used to create 3-dimensional shapes in 2-dimensional patterns by selectively shrinking the material more or less by using different weave structures. And then finally, the pattern that you see right here was made with cutting sub-assemblies in mind, meaning that if you were to use a laser cutter, that you could laser cut up to 90% of all the layers, and there is only a few manual cuts that you would need to do in order to separate the fabrics. Now, with all this new information, some of the key insights that you might want to remember is that the benefits are reduced emissions from both reduced manual labor and the introduction of zero waste patterns, as well as increased efficiency because, well, cutting and sewing can be reduced up to an extent that allows us to make the process more efficient. The innovative design flexibility is something that even if you're not necessarily interested in the sustainable benefits of 3D weaving, there is also a lot of benefits from a design perspective or for creating new and unique ways for a brand to stand out. And eventually, 3D weaving also inspires novel business models with all the future potential that it holds. Now, there are some things that may require some work if we want this to get a bigger future or more massive adoption. Like I said, it can be further developed for laser cutting and automation, moving us towards a more circular economy. Currently, it seems most promising for made-on-demand models because besides all the benefits that we see here, this would also be a way to overcome the overstockage problem. And since most of the design is done digitally, from a research perspective, it seems relatively easy to make automatically customizable patterns for the person who is ordering. So essentially, if you were to order something, you would give the dimensions and it would be made specifically for you once you've ordered it. So no overstockage, it fits perfectly, and probably no online returns either. This is future development. There's also some customization and optimization that can be done for the machinery, because in this project we use the standard Jacquard loom with a repeat in the middle, and I've been told that modern Jacquard looms can work without repeats. And if in the future we would move towards a Jacquard loom that also has a variable width warp, then this would allow for all the patterns to become zero waste. And then, truth be told, this project shows that it is definitely possible to create 5-pocket denim jeans and other denim garments using 3D weaving. But since it's so new, especially the initial development might require some extra work. And we hope that through sharing the information that you've received now, that you have a better understanding of what it is and how 3D weaving might serve you or your organization in the future. Now, as I've said, you've seen design version 4 right now, and design version 5 is currently in production with our favorite partners, Diamond Denim. Around the 11th of April, the official final presentation and report will be delivered. And soon after this will be open for the public. So if you would like to receive a copy, just send me a message. Contact information will be at the end of this presentation. And like I said, I'm not 100% sure if the dates here are correct, but the upcoming Kingpins edition in Amsterdam, you will find the finalized design ready to be interacted with. And there will also be a short seminar explaining a little bit about the garment and giving you the opportunity to test everything yourself. Now, like I said in the beginning of this presentation, industry collaboration is very important for us all to move towards a better future. And I would like to invite you to fill in a short survey. I hope that we've given you a lot of valuable information, but your input is actually very valuable for this project as well. So please, if you have the time, feel free to scan this QR code. I will leave it in the screen for a while. Everybody just, it's completely anonymous. It's also completely voluntary. So if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But you would help me and the team out a great deal, because it will ask for your professional insights and what you think about 3D weaving. Now, with all this information being said, I want to thank you very much for being present during this meeting. And this is an opportunity for us to, well, not only fill in the survey, please do, but also have a Q&A session where you're free to ask me questions, but also the other participants of the team are here as well. So if you have a question that is better suited for our friend Mohsin or our assistant professor, Holly McQuillan, then we're here to answer your questions as well. All right.
I've got the first question. First of all, many congratulations, Jordan, on such a successful project, and quite a very difficult one that you've managed, considering you're not a fashion designer. You've come from a very different background, but it must have been very rewarding. I remember you were sewing as well, and I was like, God, this guy's even sewing his garments. So it's pretty unbelievable. Quick questions. I had a few questions. I'm sure some of these other people that are watching might have lots of questions as well, but I'm going to kick it off with 2 questions first. What's the weight of the fabric that you managed to achieve with our friends at Diamond Denim? The heaviest weight that you could achieve? Do you know in weights? Was it like a 12 ounce or 11 ounce?
I wouldn't be able to tell you 100% certain, because we haven't weighed all of the fabrics. As you saw that we had I think like hundreds different variations of fabrics. We chose one that is around 400 GSM.
Okay, that's fine. GSM fine. And
that is definitely not the max, but that was just what we
good to
decided.
know. Good to know. 400 is probably like a good medium weight. Just so we understand also, the layers that you could achieve, you chose to do 4 different layers at the same time while you were making this project. Each layer, can it have a different pattern inside it? Like effectively it can, right? A different type of pattern or graphic in each layer, correct?
That is definitely true. And I do have to correct you, because even though it is possible to use 4 layers,
Yeah.
the design version 4 that you have seen does not utilize the actual fourth layers because what we notice is once you do that, the fabric becomes relatively thin. And
Yeah,
even,
like a
for
shot, it
example,
becomes like a chambray, it becomes like a shirting weight once you get to that fourth that layer. Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
So the design that you've seen here uses up to 3 layers, and more could be achieved, but I would advise for a little bit like additional research into making a stable fabric.
And then my final question at the moment is, what was the biggest repeat that you managed to do on that loom that you were using? The biggest repeat, because it had to fit one of the legs, right? Like effectively. Was
Yeah.
it like 80 by 80?
Maybe Milou can correct me on this one, but if I remember correctly, it was 58.5 centimeters, right?
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing.
Okay,
All right.
so
Anyone got questions? Let's go. Let's go. Holly or like Milou, do you guys want to say anything at all? I can read out some of the questions out here.
No, it's just the. I guess I just want to thank you, Mohsin, for your support, and also Diamond Denim for their ongoing support with the work that we've been doing. Yeah, we've had 3 graduation students. Jordan's the 3rd now, looking at various aspects of this over the last 2.5, 3 years. So, so yeah, it's been really great, and yeah, I mean, the students here at TU Delft are industrial design engineering students, so they bring a very different kind of lens, I guess, to this work. So it's been really, really valuable for me personally, and for the university in general. So yeah, thank you so much. But if anybody has any questions, yeah, we'd love to hear them for sure.
I've noticed that there are some people that are putting their questions in the chat. Thank you very much for this.
Let me help you read some of them. Most of them are saying thank you. Would you be able to share the slides? I don't think you should share the slide. I think you're going to have that report, aren't you, in a couple of weeks' time? So you share the report. The report will have everything covered in this presentation, I'm sure. But the slides they're his personal slides. I wouldn't want him to share them. See, it needs to be in the interlock stitching. I think Holly answered that question already. No, it's not interlocking. It's woven in a way that it's actually together, so it's not interlocked. So it's quite different. Yarn that you use, is it indigo dye, meaning is it washable? I would say yes, it is. It's still a ring dyed yarn. So yes, the whole point of doing it like this is so it can fade. So yes, that's the whole point. Is that correct? I'm saying. And then, were there any special instructions needed for the loom operators? This is a Milou Jordan question. Very complicated. It's complicated for sure.
What might be good to know that during this project, there was very tight collaboration between me, the designer, and Milou, the Jacquard programming expert. If you would like to answer this question, Milou, you're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, sure. I don't think there are any very special instructions. It's just like weaving any other jacquard fabric. It is just that the fabrics can be quite dense, so it might help, especially during sampling when you don't know the correct densities yet, to let the machine run a little bit slowly, just to make sure, yeah, it doesn't become too dense. But yeah, it's just like any other jacquard fabric.
Another great question. What's the average time to make one of those jeans when it's being woven? It's quite fast, right?
That is a good question. Like, this project is not completely finished yet. And these are the questions that we're looking into right now to make sure that we have this covered in the report. So unfortunately,
we're talking like minutes though, right? It could be like less than 5-6 minutes, I imagine. It's like weaving any other type of fabric, or is it much slower, like the process that sort of Miss Milou doing jacquard?
Well, in the beginning of testing a new fabric, it might pay off to like put it a little bit slower because sometimes there might be a little error here and there. But I'm not sure if we actually slowed down the jacquard loom for the final runs. Actually, I think it was just standard settings, if I'm correct.
Okay, that'd be good.
Yeah.
That'd be good to find out.
I think once you know that it's weavable and you've made sure that the file is set up correctly in terms of, you know, the density, the yarn selection, and the structures, then there's no real reason why it should be any slower to weave than on a regular jacquard loom.
I've got another question. It's about yarns that Holly's reminded me. You used hemp. He used hemp in this sort of project, as well as cotton. Effectively, you could use any kind of fiber that goes through the loom, right? Anything that the loom can accept.
Yeah, definitely.
10 cells would be amazing because it's really okay. So there's loads of good fibers you can put through it as well.
Yeah,
good to
it's
know.
that's yeah, everything from yarn to fabric to pattern, it's all manipulatable. In this project, we pushed for hemp because hemp, from an environmental perspective, if sourced correctly, has so much upside as compared to industrial cotton. But during this process, we also noticed that there is a maximum amount of hemp content that the manufacturer is currently willing to put in there. This was 60%, well, 60% blend. Since in this project, the warp was already like indigo dyed cotton, this resulted into a 30% hemp content for the weft yarn.
I think that's quite good though. I think anything more than that, it just becomes very expensive, even though it would be an amazing jean if it's 100% hemp, but it's just too expensive at the moment. But 30% is pretty awesome, I think, for our industry standard. Anyway, thank you for the presentation. We'd like to know when we can start practicing multi-layer pattern making in a process. You can start now if you've got access to a Jacquard loom. So there's no reason. Anyone who makes bed sheets and these kind of things, they've all got, any mill that does any kind of like repeat work would have a Jacquard loom. You just have to ask the actual question. Like, so
yeah. And in terms of the design process, like how to design multi-layer pattern making, you know, for garments, there's I mean, you can look at my PhD thesis, which was through the University of Borås, the Swedish School of Textiles, or you can go into my website and have a look. And if you've got any specific questions, let me know. But you can really build on existing pattern cutting skills. And when I work with students, including Jordan, and one of his slides you saw, where he had taken an existing pair of jeans and sort of cut them in the centre back, centre front seam, and thought about how they could be flattened, so that you go from a three-dimensional form, how do we fold it or flatten it so that it can be programmed and woven on a jacquard loom. But yeah, so take a look at that information out there. It's not like protected information at all. It's a basic sort of an application of known methods, but in a very different context, for a different way of thinking.
Yeah, it's a good question. Did you encounter any limitations in making the denim? I think any process, any prototype process, of course, there are problems that you encounter, Jordan, and you've been tackling each of them like slowly. But what was the biggest problem that you managed to face in this project that you managed to overcome?
Ooh, tricky questions, because it's for me as an industrial designer, it doesn't necessarily feel as a problem, but just as like a normal obstacle to go through. In this particular situation, we were again working with a jacquard loom with a repeat width of 58.5 centimeters. So in the beginning of the project, most of the limitations were on finding a zero waste pattern that could fit within the size of this repeat. Now, understandably, if you're working with a repeatless jacquard loom, this is not a problem whatsoever. One of the things that for me, not necessarily were a problem, but took some time to getting used to, is that there are some mental gymnastics that you have to go through in order to mentally anticipate how the different layers would work together. This might be relatively easier for somebody who already has a background in pattern and garment design. For me, that was a bit tricky. And well, I am also aware that even though I did most of my design in Clo 3D, and that's what I would highly suggest people to start using if they want to do this, there's a lot of people that are not familiar with this software as well. So I could think that getting to know how to manipulate that software might take a little time. If you're willing to do such a thing, again, my report will be out next month. And in this report, I'm also trying to give more of a some practical like tools for any designer who wants to start doing this. And if that is not sufficient information for you enough, then you're always welcome to send me a message. And it might be good for you to know that Milou, Voorwinden, and Holly McQuillan are also still at TU Delft continuing top parts of this research.
Also, another thing, I remember I attended a lovely talk with Holly in the UK, and she gave out paper cutouts that you did. So you can manipulate it even with pieces of paper. You can make patterns like this. So you don't necessarily need to do it on clo. If you got a pattern cutting brain, you can probably figure it out by just using paper. So yeah, he's like nodding away. So do you count during the normal denim fabric production, are there some finishings involved in weaving? How do you see finishings in 3D weaving? So it's more of a finishing question. Once it's made, Jordan, it can be finished the same way as a regular pair of jeans, right? Because it's still an indigo, warp, it's still practice, it's still jeans. So you can treat it the same way with lasers and treating it with washers if you wanted to. Yes?
You're absolutely right. Some things that are interesting to note on this topic is that I was supposed to travel to Pakistan as well to go through this process together with the manufacturer. Unfortunately, we were not able to do this, but we ended up finishing the fabrics rather nicely because it's a 2-layer fabric. Let me take something like this. Once we weave it, the warp is inside faced. So essentially this is what it would look like. And the color is on the inside. So once the fabric is being finished, in this case, it's finishing the inside of the jean. So making it feel comfortable and normal on the skin. And this particular version, we did not yet garment finish, but this could also be done to finish the outside in any way.
You're going to be showing lots of versions of this at the Kingpin show, and Kingpins are very kindly giving you a small area as well to show your project. So we thank them in advance for that. And our friends at Diamond Denim will have a small area in their own booth as well, I'm sure, showing off this project. So 2 opportunities, I'm sure, to see your project up close and personal and to feel the fabrics. And I believe you're going to bring some of the prototypes as well. So you're still deciding exactly how you're going to present your project, but
there will be 2 jeans and 1 uncut pattern in the key pieces exhibits. There will be a small seminar. And if you happen to catch me walking around at Kingpins, I will also bring a whole bunch of samples for you to examine if you want to.
Amazing. Okay, let's see other questions. Oh, let's jumping in now. Do you see any issues with shrinkage? I think you just have to do the calculation, and obviously you need to wash it first and then adjust your pattern. The same as how any normal jean is actually made, I imagine. So
it's actually it was very easy once you've created the first fabric. So before you have woven any fabric, it's very difficult to make estimations on how much the shrinkage and weight would be because there's so many variables. But once you have a fabric and you actually measure it, you know the shrinkage for that specific combination that you use. And what we did is add those percentages in clo 3D. So it automatically already scales the pattern for you. So from that moment onwards, it's just as if you're making a normal fabric.
Amazing. Someone's just commented that they did a project like this as well. So
wow.
I would love to see it. I think we should share all this knowledge that we're doing. We're doing all these projects at the same time. I'm doing multiple projects in China as well to do with loads of stuff. And I like sharing everything. I'm not one of these people that hides things away. So yeah, whoever's done this amazing project, do share or tag us on Instagram and let's see your project. That would be awesome.
Exactly. We're trying to do everything we can to ensure that we're not gatekeeping this fundamental.
No, not at all. We want people to benefit from this, and hopefully someone will do something better than us. That's the plan. So we want people to get better.
Yeah, maybe you've come across some insights that we not necessarily didn't. So if you would be so kind as to send me a message on LinkedIn, then I would love to get in touch with your project.
Exactly. Very nice. Did you use multiple 3D layers also? I think Holly asked. Oh yeah, Holly's answered that. No, okay, fine. Moving on. As someone's trying to use other materials where we are able to investigate different weaving structures. Right already, yeah. So you talked about that. So different weaving structures, 2x1 construct. You can do different types of constructions in every single layer, right? So that's not a problem, right? Right, Jordan?
Yeah, I have a variety of samples, but it would require some digging through. No,
You have a
there's
suitcase amount.
there's a
So-
lot of things that you can do. There is no limitations what you want to do in terms of weaving. But for this project, since we're focusing on, well, 5-pocket denim jeans, and we wanted to stay true to the well, most essential characteristics of denim jeans, we decided to go with twill fabrics for most of the design. But most of it, Milou, did we actually come across a weave structure multi-layer that wasn't weavable? Not necessarily, right? Most of the sample blankets just worked.
Your imagination.
It all depends on the combination of weave structures and densities in the fabric. So it's more particular the combination of weave structures than whether one would weave or not. And also, of course, the stability of the fabric is important.
So an example for all of you on the panel here, it's like if you did a pair of jeans and you had the pocketing part of the front of the jean already incorporated into the pattern, the pocketing part could be like a 2x1 structure, and the main part could be 3x1, effectively, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to point out that like the prototyping process in terms of weave structures and density and all that kind of stuff went relatively smoothly, but that's because of the work that Milou in particular has been doing for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And she's just started her PhD with us here at TU Delft. So that'll like disseminating that information is an important part of what we're trying to do here. So yeah, it's a lot is possible, but it requires you understand.
Some experience in the
some experience.
No, but you did that really successful project with Barbara as well the previous year. So yeah, it's just you're building on other projects. So yeah.
Yes, and it's true. So in that project, the sampling stage also took quite a bit longer than in this, because I already had that experience from the last project.
Okay, so something about stretched yarn patterns. I don't mean to use stretch yarn patterns, would you need a rotation? I don't understand that question. Maybe someone.
No, I think they're saying is the weft direction going across the body like you would expect with a stretch denim? Yes, it is. So you wouldn't need to rotate it. It's going vertically. So the leg is going down the length of the warp. If you insert.
Catherine and Nina, Nina's at an amazing university in like Norwich. She's saying thank you. Tristan, what strategies are you considering to ensure 3D woven garments remain competitive priced compared to traditional manufacturing jeans? So that's going to be the end of your report, isn't it, Jordan? You're going to figure this out.
Definitely. Tristan, very good question. Very good question indeed. This will be elaborately covered in the report as well, because even though it's a new fundamental tool for garment design, it might require some alterations in business models, as was covered earlier. For example, online business models as opposed to brick and mortar stores. But this is essentially up to the industry to define how they see this technology to fit best. But I will give some recommendations and insights from what we've learned through this project in the report. So yeah.
I've got a question which I think Holly's going to answer. If the max repeat is 50 something cm, how can you weave something bigger? Obviously, like Holly, you were at ITMA this last year, meeting with all the loom manufacturers, like convincing them to come up with a loom. It's all possible. It's all possible to make looms that are bigger. It's just whether or not people are going to jump and do it, or they're going to manufacture it. So it's just
so the repeat size of the loom that Jordan used is relatively narrow, but even within that, there's still a lot of flexibility and opportunity in terms of different sizes, different fits, different styles, for example. But if you have either no repeat, which is entirely possible and relatively common with jacquard looms these days, especially new ones, then the size issue is less and less of a problem. And in terms of width of looms, I mean, you can get 3-meter wide industrial jacquard looms as well. They're not usually used for denim, but you know, they exist, and there are, you know, there's a lot of opportunity in terms of different technologies that we could utilize differently, things that already exist that we already know how to do, but haven't really been contextualized into this particular way of thinking. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of opportunity, but you can make any size garment. Me and Milou did a little trial where we had 4 on a loom that has no repeat. We put 4 trouser designs side by side, and so 2 different styles and 2 different sizes. So we put a US size 4, I think, next to a US size 18, and 2 different fits. So
Wow.
there's a lot of potential in terms of that kind of stuff as well.
It's just convincing your mill partner or manufacturer to buy this machine, really. That's the key, really.
Exactly.
Thank you, Sue, for joining. A good friend of ours, Sue, just says to thank you. From the industry point of view, what are the appreciations and bottlenecks preventing more digital fabrication techniques to be integrated? Yeah, it's I don't know. It's not bottlenecks. It's actually changing the mindset, right? It's just loads of people. I come across negativity about zero waste. I had a meeting recently with someone, and they literally started the conversation saying, "This is all a big marketing." You know, they were angry at me, and I was convinced, no, it can be done. They were more angry about the sizing and the grading part of it. I think that's the most thing that annoyed them the most. And I said,
yeah, and there are things you can do with grading for zero waste. It's just a different kind of approach than what the industry is used to using. But I mean, 3D weaving in this way also requires a fundamentally different approach in terms of not just the design and how it's produced, but the model that's situated within, like on-demand production, is clearly a better strategy in general, but we just need ways of doing it that don't mean that the cost skyrockets for the consumer. But in terms of like digital fabrication bottlenecks, I think like the digital tools to enable us to translate from a 3D form, like a pair of jeans, and be supported in how we could flatten it to turn it into a map of bindings that can be woven. I think like when I was developing these strategies and whenever I teach them, it's one of the most difficult sort of elements of that process. And there's no digital tools to support people in doing that. But that question's from Jamal, and that's his whole thing. So yeah, there are people working on this, and has huge potential once that's supported. And
maybe we need to do a conference just about this, right? Have a forum that we can all meet and talk about this for half a day, and everyone share their knowledge, because there's so many of us doing other kind of zero waste strategy projects. Everyone's doing lots of different other projects that are linked to all of this, but some of us aren't aware of some of our other projects. So yeah, maybe it's just a meet up. I think it's coming close to the hour, but I think it's been such a successful meeting. Well done, Jordan, again for this project, and congratulations to our friends at like TU Delft as well. And you're going to see this project at Kingpin Show, so make sure you go and speak with Jordan and the team. I'm sure the girls here are going to be there at the show as well, supporting. But any last questions, or anyone else who wants to say anything? I think we might be done. Well done, guys, and congratulations. And like Jordan, such a good presentation. Many congratulations for making it very, very clear for everyone how you did your project. So, yeah.
Please do the survey, guys. It's going to be really helpful for us. So before you leave, scan the QR code, and it's really, really valuable information for us. We won't know who you are. No emails are collected. None of that stuff. We just want to get some insights. So please do that.
Yeah, congratulations. Thank you everyone for coming, and see you all at Kingpins. So yeah, that's it really. Thank you again. Bye,
see
guys.
you all at Kingpins. Thank you for your time. Check the survey, and hopefully see you all soon. I hope it was enlightening in some sense.
It was really good. Well done to you.
All right.
Bye, guys.